Kochie, looking forward to chatting to our next guest because everyone wants a vibey workplace, but not everyone springs through the doors at 9 a.m. or earlier with that promise.
And it is a time at the end of the year to think, okay, what's a culture like in our workplace? Has it been humming along? Is it what we want it to be? And it's a good time to actually use the summer break to say, okay, how can I create an inspiring workplace for your team to return in 2018? And Dr. Suzy Green is a clinical and coaching psychologist, the founder of the Positivity Institute, which I love the term for it because we should be all more positive. And Suzy joins us now. Suzy, thank you for your time this afternoon. Take us through how important it is for a person to have that sort of inspiring, creative workplace.
Yeah, hi Ed and Kochie. How are you this afternoon?
Really good.
Positive, hopefully.
Yep, always.
Look, good to hear. Look, it's really, really important. And in fact, there's so much research now to show that experiencing positivity or a greater degree of positive emotions, if you like, actually not only feels good, which we all know it does feel good, but it actually affects how we function. And given we spend this, suggesting a third of our lives at work or in the workplace, you can start to see why it's so important that we're more proactive about creating an inspiring workplace.
And isn't it funny these days? I have this personal campaign for optimism where...
I just saw that. I love it.
If anyone whinges to me, oh, geez, Australia, terrible, you go, hang on, 26 years of positive economic growth. We've got unemployment at 5.4% in New South Wales. It's basically full employment at the moment. Average Australian is the second richest in the world behind the Swiss, and we've got record low interest rates. What the hell are you whinging about?
Look, I'm hearing you, and we need people like you pointing that out.
But why have we got so grumpy? Is it because we've had it so good for so long that we need something, even if it's little things to whinge about?
Yeah, look, I guess, there's multiple variables and factors and, there's research going on around that and hypotheses. But we do, as humans, have something known as the negativity bias, which is an inbuilt mechanism that's there for our survival. It's been there for millennia and it's not going to go away. So it's something that we actually have to work with, which is why we often have to work extra hard at putting our focus and attention onto the positive, which is why we actually do need to hear more of the good news on a day-to-day basis.
So we have to fight this natural negativity inside of us. How do you create a space that will do that, a workspace that makes it inspirational?
Definitely. And I guess, in thinking about this segment today, there's two ways that we can approach this. One is as an individual and you're thinking to yourself, wow, perhaps I haven't got that much choice or autonomy and there's no way my boss is going to spend any money on this, just to make us, happier, if you like. So there's certainly things you can do as an individual, which I wouldn't mind speaking to, but also as a business owner or, if you have some degree of influence and authority, you can actually, as an organisation, create an inspiring workplace as well for your people.
Okay, like what? What do you do? Is it putting a ping pong table in there or a jukebox or...
I know. And I guess I'm getting a little... It is. Look, there's certainly things like that, and they've been around for a while, and organisations like Google, do that really well. Yeah. And we are seeing an increase in organisations, giving discounted gym memberships, fruit boxes. And look, that's all well and good, but there's a lot more that you can do to create, I guess, a positive emotional climate where it affects people's positive emotional state, in a more significant way.
Like what?
So, well, firstly, we can start to think about, I guess, how much optimism, as you were saying, is happening in the workplace. And there are things that we can do, like, firstly, starting to focus on what's working well. I mean, some organisations we've been working with, the most simplest activity that's turned the culture around pretty quickly is just starting the day or starting, their team meetings with a what's working well. And it might seem, not like rocket science, but I can assure you it's actually had an astounding effect on how people are approaching the problems that they inevitably have to face on a day-to-day basis as well.
Because, my basic instinct is to say, start a meeting, go, now, what's everyone's problems? Yeah. So there's my natural negativity.
That's it.
I've got to fight to turn it around and say, hey, what are the wins? What have we done well?
Well, is the brain not, the default setting is to be a bit negative naturally, Doc?
Yes. Yes, it is. As I said, it's there for our survival, and it's so something we need to be aware of. But in saying that, some of us have stronger negativity biases than others, and that's a bit of a self-awareness piece. For others, a lot of this comes more naturally to us. And I guess you also have to be aware that sometimes being that really positive person can actually turn other people off. So it is, it does come down to an awareness piece. But for me, and obviously backed by the science, we usually go into the workplace, speak to the leaders, speak to the people, and we come across, I guess, with a very strong business case, if you like, that this is not just feel-good, happy-dappy stuff, that there's so much research now to show that expressing gratitude, cultivating it, so being aware again of all the things you do have. I mean, I've had people say to me, we're not in a war-torn country, or where I came from, we didn't have running water, and there are people in the staff room whinging about not having pens and papers. So it is a bit of a reality check, focusing on the things that we do have, and here where we live, we have an enormous amount of wonderful things happening. Also, we know organisations or workplaces that express compassion for people, that we're not too harsh in judging people, because everybody's fighting their own battle, as you would know, and try not to jump to conclusions about why, Joe Blow's, in not the best mood this week. You have no idea what's going on in people's lives. So expressing some compassion and some forgiveness, because as humans, we're going to inevitably, make mistakes. And there's also some great research to show that cultures that do allow a level of mistakes to be made or express forgiveness actually then create greater levels of creativity, because people are more likely to have a go at things without feeling that they're going to be beaten over the head.
Yeah. What about music? Doing in an office space, or I must admit, I sometimes have arguments with some of my younger guys on the type of music they're playing. I don't think punk is really the go, or gangster rap. Doesn't go for me. I don't want Mantovani, but I think there's something in the middle. But does music create that, or group activities?
Yes. It is one of the most powerful mood-boosting activities that you can use. A lot of people use it. So let's say you've come from home, you might have had, some tension with the kids or the family. So a lot of people, we encourage people to think about, whether it's through your headphones on public transport or in the car, creating a mood-boosting playlist that can significantly shift your mood. But we know if you're actually trying to focus, that it's Baroque. The research suggests Baroque music, but primarily music without lyrics. So the lyrics seem to interfere with thinking cognitive processes. So that's just something to bear in mind.
And I must admit, little things like there's new software for your Apple Watch at the moment, and it tells me to breathe. Meditation. And I just used to press the dismiss thing, and then it would come up and I say, I'll give this a go. And it actually focuses you on your breathing, and I find it quite calming.
It's prompting you now in and then out.
It does.
Brilliant.
Yes, it does all happen automatically. But what we do know is that people, particularly when they're stressed, do very shallow breathing.
Right.
And what we're really trying to engage is what they call abdominal breathing, which kicks in your parasympathetic nervous system, which is the calming response.
So it's a bit of meditation, and I think that's really important in terms of the vibe. Suzy, some terrific advice there. Thanks for joining us, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you too.
Thank you, Suzy. I want to see you Googleplexing your offices, Kochie. Skateboards, the bowling alley, all that sort of stuff.
Exactly.